The remaining Alliance ships hung motionless in space, their quantum drives useless in the altered physics of the battlefield. But it was what happened next that truly demonstrated humanity's approach to power. "We could destroy your remaining ships," Chen said. "But instead, we're going to show you something." The field around one of the human vessels expanded, encompassing an Alliance cruiser. Instead of destruction, the cruiser's systems came back online, but differently. "We've temporarily granted your ship the ability to operate under our principles of physics," Chen explained. "Your sensors can now see what we see. Look at your own technology through our understanding of reality." Xeris watched through the cruiser's enhanced sensors as her civilization's most advanced technology was revealed as startlingly primitive, not because it wasn't advanced, but because it operated on such a limited understanding of reality's true nature. "This is why we hid our capabilities," Chen continued. "Not out of fear, but because we learned through our own history that power displayed is power vulnerable to countermeasures. True strength lies not in showing what you can do, but in understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself." The demonstration continued as human ships began systematically shutting down the remaining Alliance fleet, not through destruction, but through the simple expedient of changing how physics worked in their vicinity. Ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds were rendered inert not by superior firepower, but by a civilization that had learned to treat reality itself as malleable. "You still have a choice, Admiral," Chen offered. "We can continue this demonstration, or we can talk. Actually talk this time, as equals who understand that technology isn't about building bigger weapons, but about understanding the true nature of existence itself." Xeris looked at her fleet, now mostly transformed into clouds of elementary particles or floating powerless in space. She realized that humanity hadn't just surpassed the Alliance technologically, they had fundamentally changed what technology meant. And somewhere in the vast database of the Alliance's history, she remembered an ancient warning: "Beware the species that learns to question reality itself, for they will not be bound by it." Humanity, it seemed, had become exactly that species. The emergency session of the Alliance High Council was unlike any in its 10,000-year history. The crystalline chamber, usually a symbol of order and power, now seemed fragile as the quantum-encrypted transmission from Earth played. 3 hours ago, Grand Admiral Xeris reported, her scales a muted gray of humiliation. "Our invasion fleet was effectively neutralized by human defenses." But defenses isn't the right word. What we encountered was, she struggled to find the words. "The end of everything we thought we knew," Commander Vrel finished, his sensor stalks drooping. "The humans don't just have superior technology. They've developed a fundamental understanding of reality that makes our civilization look like children playing with toys." The council chamber erupted in protests. High Counselor Zara, her crystalline exoskeleton flashing with anger, rose to speak. "Impossible. We are the Meridian Alliance. We have mastered quantum physics, bent spacetime to our will." "No," Xeris cut in, her voice firm despite her shame. "We haven't mastered anything. We've simply learned to use rules we never questioned. The humans, they learned to change the rules themselves." The holographic display showed footage from the battle, if it could even be called that. Alliance ships, the pride of their civilization, being transformed by fields that rewrote the laws of physics in their vicinity. Quantum drives failing not because they were damaged, but because quantum mechanics itself had been locally amended. "This is what they were trying to tell us," Vrel explained. "Their warning wasn't about military power, it was about understanding. They tried to show us that our entire approach to technology, to physics, to reality itself, was fundamentally limited." Another transmission cut through their security measures like they didn't exist. Director Chen appeared in the center of the council chamber, her presence somehow both there and not there simultaneously. "Your encryption is impressive," she said calmly, "but it assumes quantum states must follow certain rules. We've moved beyond such assumptions." "Why are you here?" High Counselor Zara demanded. "To gloat over your victory." No, Chen smiled slightly. We're here to offer you a choice. The same choice we've offered every civilization we've encountered. Learn with us or continue alone. But understand, your days of forcing others to submit are over. She stood, looking out at the seemingly primitive space stations and satellites surrounding Earth. Send word to the defense grid. Full quantum camouflage protocols remain in effect. When they return, let them fire the first shot. After that, well, they'd made their choice. The humans left the simple room, which shimmered and dissolved, revealing the true command center kilometers beneath the Earth's surface, a marvel of technology that the Alliance, for all its advancement, couldn't even comprehend. Humanity had learned long ago that true power lies not in showing strength, but in knowing when to reveal it. The Alliance would return, and they would learn what so many others had learned before. Never mistake humanity's peaceful overtures for weakness. The warning had been given. What came next was no longer humanity's responsibility. 3 Alliance cycles later, 12,000 warships tore holes in reality as they emerged from quantum space around Sol system. Grand Admiral Xeris stood proudly on the Eternal Dawn's command deck, now reinforced with the Alliance's most powerful battle fleet. Status report, she commanded, her scales shimmering with anticipation. No changes to Earth's defensive posture, Commander Vrel reported, sensor stalks pulsing. Their orbital stations remain minimal. No quantum signatures, no fleet movements. They haven't even activated their primitive planetary shields. Xeris's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. As expected, their bluff has failed. Begin the approach formation. Target their orbital infrastructure first. Let them watch their precious achievements burn. The massive fleet moved forward in perfect geometric patterns, their crystalline hulls forming a lattice that could channel enough energy to crack a planet. Standard Alliance doctrine. Overwhelming force. Perfect coordination. Absolute victory. Admiral, one of the sensor operators called out, I'm detecting some unusual readings from their orbital debris field. Debris? Ignore it. Primitive civilizations always leave their waste in orbit. Continue the approach. The fleet crossed the orbit of Mars, their quantum drives humming with power. That's when the first anomaly appeared. Admiral, Vrel's sensor stalks went rigid. The debris field. It's moving. What had appeared to be ancient satellites and space junk suddenly shifted, revealing their true nature. Quantum fields that had masked their real signatures for decades dissolved, showing technology that made the Alliance's most advanced sensors scream in confusion. Impossible, Xeris whispered as the data flooded her neural interface. The debris field wasn't debris at all. It was a vast network of devices operating on principles that defied Alliance understanding. Transmission cut through their quantum-encrypted communications like they didn't exist. Director Chen's voice filled every ship simultaneously. Admiral Xeris, I see you brought friends. One last chance. Leave now. Open fire. Xeris roared. Full quantum barrage. 12,000 ships unleashed their power simultaneously, enough energy to reduce a planet to atoms. The beams struck what appeared to be empty space and vanished. No explosions, no impact, simply gone. What happened to our weapons fire? Xeris demanded. Unknown. Admiral. Vrel's voice shook. It's as if the energy simply ceased to exist. Quantum physics is interesting, isn't it? Chen's voice came again, almost conversational. Your civilization mastered quantum tunneling, quantum communications, quantum weapons, but you never asked the fundamental question. What if the quantum realm itself could be manipulated? What if the basic laws of reality were more flexible than you assumed? The debris field came alive. What looked like ancient satellites revealed themselves as nodes in a vast network, each one suddenly emanating fields that defied analysis. Space itself began to twist. Admiral, Vrel's sensor stalks whipped in panic. The quantum substrate is becoming unstable. Our drives are losing coherence. Cirrus watched in horror as the laws of physics began to change around her fleet. Quantum fields that had powered Alliance ships for millennia simply stopped working. Ships began to drift, their perfect formation dissolving into chaos. "What have you done?" she demanded. "We've temporarily adjusted how quantum mechanics works in this region of space," Chen explained calmly. "Your technology depends on certain physical laws remaining constant. We learned to change those laws themselves. Did you never wonder why humanity seemed to advance so slowly in conventional technology? We weren't building better ships or weapons. We were learning to rewrite reality." The debris field's transformation continued. Ancient communication satellites revealed themselves as consciousness transfer nodes far beyond Alliance understanding. Primitive sensor arrays turned out to be quantum manipulation engines that could alter the fabric of space-time itself. "Fall back," Cirrus ordered. "Emergency temporal drives." "Too late," Chen said softly. "Your temporal technology depends on quantum principles we've already altered. You're not going anywhere." The first Alliance ship imploded as the quantum fields maintaining its structure simply ceased to function. Then another and another. No explosions, no desperate last stands, just quiet dissolution as the laws of physics they depended on were locally rewritten. "Stop," Xerus called out. "We surrender." "Interesting," Chen replied. "When we tried to talk, you chose violence. When we warned you, you chose arrogance. Now that you're facing the consequences, you want mercy." Around the eternal dawn, Cirrus watched helplessly as her mighty fleet discovered what humanity had learned through centuries of warfare among themselves. True power isn't about having the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's about understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself. The debris field continued its transformation, revealing Earth's true defensive grid, not weapons of destruction, but tools that could rewrite the laws of physics themselves. Humanity hadn't built better ships. They'd learned to change how ships could work. They hadn't developed better weapons. They'd mastered reality itself. And now the Alliance fleet was about to learn the price of ignoring their warning. As Alliance ships continued to dissolve into quantum mist, Grand Admiral Xerus faced a reality her civilization had never encountered in 10,000 years of expansion. Complete technological superiority by a supposedly primitive species. "How many ships remain operational?" she asked, her scales now a pale gray of despair. "Less than 2,000, Admiral," Vrel reported. "And those are only functioning because—" he hesitated. "Because we're allowing them to." Director Chen's voice completed his thought. "We could have eliminated your entire fleet in seconds. But that's not how humanity operates. We believe in teaching moments." The holographic display showed the true nature of Earth's defense grid now. A vast lattice of quantum manipulation engines disguised as debris, each one capable of altering the fundamental forces of reality in its vicinity. But it was what they revealed next that truly shook the Alliance's understanding of power. "Your civilization developed linearly," Chen explained, her image appearing on the bridge, but somehow more than a projection. "You discovered quantum mechanics, then built quantum technology, then quantum weapons, a logical progression. Humanity. We went sideways. Around the remaining Alliance ships, space itself seemed to ripple. What looked like normal stars began to move, revealing themselves as camouflaged monitoring stations that had been watching the Alliance for decades. While you were mastering quantum physics, we were asking why quantum physics worked at all. While you built bigger ships, we learned to change the nature of space itself. Your civilization sees physics as a set of rules to be followed. We see it as a programming language to be rewritten." Xerus watched in astonishment as human ships finally revealed themselves, if they could even be called ships. They were more like mobile reality manipulation engines, each one surrounded by fields that bent light, gravity, and quantum forces to their will. "The signal that breached your network," Chen continued. "We didn't hack it. We didn't break your encryption. We simply created a local space where your quantum communications had to follow our rules instead of yours. Your technology is impressive, Admiral, but it's built on assumptions about how reality works. We learned to change those assumptions. A demonstration followed. One of the human vessels, a small craft that would have been considered insignificant by Alliance standards, approached a disabled Alliance dreadnought. Instead of weapons fire, it emitted a field that seemed to ignore Alliance shields completely. The massive dreadnought didn't explode or break apart. It simply reconfigured, its matter rearranging into basic elements as the fundamental forces holding its atoms together were temporarily rewritten. Impossible, Vrel whispered. This violates every law of physics we know. No, Chen corrected gently. It violates every law of physics you choose to follow. Humanity learned something different through our centuries of conflict and development. We learned that the laws of physics aren't laws at all. They're more like guidelines, subject to local amendments. The Meridian Alliance's flagship Eternal Dawn emerged from quantum space at the edge of Sol system, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in impossible patterns. Grand Admiral Xeris stood on the command deck, her iridescent scales shifting from deep blue to violet as she studied the holographic display of humanity's home system. Primitive, she muttered, mandibles clicking softly. Their most advanced stations barely reached their fourth planet. No quantum barriers, no gravitational arrays, not even basic consciousness transfer technology. She turned to her second-in-command, Commander Vrel. Are we certain this is the origin point of the signal that breached our quantum networks? Vrel's sensor stalks pulsed with affirmation. Confirmed, Admiral. The quantum signature matches perfectly. These humans somehow managed to pierce our most secure communications channels across 50,000 light-years. The Council demands answers. The Alliance had detected the intrusion 3 cycles ago, a signal that somehow bypassed every security measure they'd developed over 10,000 years of civilization. The message itself had been deceptively simple: coordinates to Earth and an invitation to talk. Open a channel to their primary governing body, Xeris commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing a simple chamber where 3 humans sat at a plain metal table. No ornate decorations, no displays of power or technology, just 3 humans in practical clothing waiting. Greetings, the central figure spoke, a female with silver-streaked hair. I'm Director Chen of Earth's Defense Council. We've been expecting you. Xeris felt her scales ripple with amusement. I am Grand Admiral Xeris of the Meridian Alliance. Your species has committed a grave violation of Alliance law by breaching our secure networks. Submit to immediate technological inspection and integration into the Alliance, or face extinction. You have 1 planetary rotation to comply. The human's expression didn't change. We suspected this would be your response, Admiral. So let me be clear. We didn't breach your network. We simply observed it, from a distance, using principles your civilization hasn't discovered yet. This was our attempt at peaceful first contact. Laughter erupted across the command deck. Xeris herself felt her throat sac vibrate with mirth. You expect us to believe that your primitive species, barely able to reach your own satellite worlds, has technology beyond the Alliance. Admiral. Chen's voice remained steady. We've spent our entire history hiding our true capabilities. What you see of our civilization is a carefully constructed facade. We didn't develop the way other species do. We didn't reach for the stars until we understood the fundamental forces of reality itself. Leave now. This is both a warning and an offer of peace. Xeris's scales flushed deep crimson. You dare threaten the Alliance. Commander Vrel, prepare the fleet for invasion protocols. Let's show these primitives the price of arrogance. Wait, Chen leaned forward slightly. Before you make this mistake, ask yourself, how did we really contact you? What principles of quantum mechanics allow a primitive civilization to observe and interact with networks they shouldn't even be able to detect? What else might we be capable of that you haven't seen? Empty threats from a species about to learn its place. Xerxes snarled. You have one rotation. Submit or burn. The human's eyes seemed to hold something like pity. We'll be ready when you return, Admiral. Remember, we warned you. As the transmission ended, Vrel approached the Admiral. Should we be concerned about their claims? They're trying to avoid inevitable conquest through deception. Xerxes dismissed the worry with a wave of her primary arm. Return to Alliance space. We'll bring the invasion fleet. Let them spend their final rotation contemplating their doom. As the eternal dawn slipped back into quantum space, Director Chen sat back in her chair and sighed. They never listened, do they? Her colleagues shook their heads. Colonel Santos, her military advisor, pulled up a holographic display showing the real Earth defense grid. Vast arrays of quantum manipulation engines disguised as debris, consciousness transference satellites hiding as ancient space junk, and weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics in localized spaces. Should we drop the facade? He asked. No, Chen replied. Let them come with their fleet. They need to learn, just like the others did. Humanity learned to hide our capabilities through countless wars among ourselves. We learned that appearing weak while being strong is far more effective than displaying power. When they return, they'll discover why Earth has remained independent despite 8 first contact attempts in the past century. The display shifted, showing the true Earth, stripped of its carefully maintained facade of primitive technology. The planet was surrounded by a lattice of devices that defied Alliance understanding. Not weapons or shields, but tools for manipulating the fabric of reality itself. What you're seeing, Chen explained, is the result of a different path of development. Your civilization built upward, creating ever more powerful technologies based on your understanding of physics. We built inward, questioning why physics worked the way it did in the first place. How? Another council member asked. How did your species achieve this level of understanding? Through failure, Chen replied simply. Through centuries of warfare among ourselves, through countless disasters and near extinctions. Each time we nearly destroyed ourselves, we gained a deeper understanding of reality's fundamental nature. We learned that true power isn't about building bigger weapons. It's about understanding why weapons work at all. The council chamber was silent as the implications sank in. The Alliance had spent millennia perfecting quantum technology, building ever more powerful ships and weapons, but they had never questioned the underlying principles they were working with. Your fleet remains intact, Chen continued, though currently inoperable. We could return them to normal function, or, she paused, we could show you why they work the way they do. Teach you to see reality as we do. The choice is yours. High Counselors are as crystalline form dimmed slightly. And if we refuse, then you continue on your current path. But understand, Earth and its allies are now off-limits to the Alliance. We won't allow you to force your limited understanding of reality on others anymore. The council members looked at each other, their various forms expressing emotions that transcended their biological differences. For the first time in their history, they faced a species that hadn't just surpassed them technologically. It had transcended their entire understanding of what technology could be. There's something else you should know, Chen added, her expression serious. We're not the only ones who have achieved this understanding. There are others out there, civilizations that have followed similar paths. We've been in contact with them for years, sharing knowledge, growing together. Your choice isn't just about Earth. It's about your place in a universe that's far more complex than you imagined. The Alliance High Council, rulers of 1,000 worlds, found themselves facing the truth they had never considered. That their power, their technology, their very understanding of reality might be nothing more than a primitive first step towards something far greater. And in the silence that followed, they began to understand the true price of their pride. One standard Earth year after the failed invasion, the Sol system had become something unprecedented in galactic history. A learning center for the Meridian Alliance, where once 12,000 warships had come to conquer, now research vessels and diplomatic missions arrived seeking understanding. The Eternal Dawn, once the flagship of an invasion fleet, now orbited Earth as a permanent embassy. Grand Admiral Xeris, her scales now the deep blue of wisdom and contemplation, stood on its observation deck with Director Chen, watching Alliance scientists work alongside human teachers. "I still find it difficult to comprehend," Xeris admitted, watching a demonstration where a small human device altered the quantum properties of space around it. "Our civilization spent 10,000 years mastering the laws of physics, never once considering they could be flexible." Chen nodded, gesturing to a holographic display showing the progress of various Alliance research teams. "That's why we maintained our facade of primitive technology for so long. We learned through our own history that true advancement doesn't come from building better tools. It comes from questioning why those tools work at all." Below them, in Earth's orbit, Alliance ships were being systematically upgraded, not with new weapons or stronger shields, but with devices that helped their crews understand the malleable nature of reality itself. It wasn't just technology transfer, it was a fundamental shift in how an entire civilization viewed the universe. "Tell me something," Xeris asked, her mandibles moving thoughtfully. "Those other civilizations you mentioned, the ones who achieved similar understanding, how did you find each other?" Chen smiled. "We didn't, exactly. Once you reach a certain level of understanding about reality's fundamental nature, you start to notice others who have done the same. It's like becoming aware of a conversation that was always happening around you." A transmission interrupted them, another Alliance vessel arriving through conventional space rather than quantum tunneling. The Alliance was learning that their old methods of faster-than-light travel were based on unnecessarily complex manipulation of quantum states. Humanity's approach was simpler, more elegant. Don't force space to bend to your will. Understand why it bends in the first place. "The Council has voted," Xeris announced, reading the transmission. "We're officially transitioning from a military alliance to a cooperative federation. Our conquest fleets are being repurposed for exploration and research, and the other species under Alliance control, being given the choice to stay or leave, with full access to both traditional Alliance technology and—" Xeris paused, her scales shifting to a color of amazement. "The beginning principles of reality manipulation, once they're ready." The observation deck's view shifted, showing a wider perspective of the Sol system. The debris field that had hidden Earth's true capabilities was still there, but now it served a different purpose. Instead of concealing humanity's advancement, it demonstrated it. A vast network of reality manipulation devices that served as teaching tools for visiting species. "There's something we haven't told you," Chen said quietly, "about why we developed our technology this way." Xeris's sensor stalks quivered with interest. "We detected something, decades ago, at the edge of known space. A civilization that doesn't just manipulate reality. They break it. They don't seek to understand the universe. They seek to dominate it through brute force. We've been preparing for them, gathering allies who understand what's really at stake." "The Devourers," Xeris whispered, her scales paling. "We thought they were just legends." "They're very real," Chen confirmed. "And they're coming. That's why we revealed ourselves to your invasion fleet the way we did. We needed you to understand quickly that there are bigger things at stake than territorial expansion or military dominance." Around them, the Sol system hummed with activity. Alliance ships learning new principles, human teachers sharing understanding accumulated through centuries of questioning everything they thought they knew, and somewhere in the vast database of reality itself, patterns shifting as two civilizations learned to work together. "How long?" Xeris asked. 20 years, maybe less. But now we don't face them alone. Your civilization's experience with conventional space warfare, combined with our understanding of reality's fundamental nature." Chen let the implication hang in the air. "The Eternal Dawn's quantum sensors, recently upgraded with human insights, detected something at the edge of the system. Another ship arriving. But this one wasn't Alliance or human. Its configuration was completely unknown. its method of travel unlike anything either civilization had seen before. Right on schedule, Chen smiled. Representatives from one of those other civilizations I mentioned. They're interested in meeting the newest members of what we call the Reality Understanding Group, or REG for short. Exurus watched as the alien ship approached, its very movement suggesting an understanding of physics that made even humanity's achievements seem primitive. There's always a bigger fish, isn't there? That's the beauty of it, Chen replied. There's always more to learn, more to understand. The universe isn't a battlefield to be conquered, it's a puzzle to be understood. And now we work on that puzzle together. As the new ship docked with the Eternal Dawn, both human and Alliance representatives prepared to meet yet another civilization that had asked the simple question that changed everything. Why does reality work the way it does, and what happens if we try something different? The answer, as both civilizations had learned, was just the beginning of a much larger conversation, one that would determine the fate of reality itself when the Devourers finally arrived. But that, as they say, is another story.